way to handle illegal immigrants. Republican John Shadegg of Arizona is our guest right now. Good to have you with us, sir. Welcome, Congressman.
Good morning.
You know, I want to get at first I'd love to get your reaction to what you thought about that moment in the Rose Garden yesterday, where President Calderon said that Arizona's law, the law that was signed into law in your state, he lashed out at it, called it discriminatory, and the president didn't really disagree with him on that.
Quite frankly, I think both leaders failed the people of their countries. I don't think it's appropriate for President Calderon to come here and criticize our law. Actually, the wording of the law itself is not discriminatory, and the president misrepresented the language of the bill. But what I think Calderon should have done is said, look, I'm going to take care of the problems on my side of the border. I'm going to assume that the law will not be applied in a discriminatory fashion. And if it is applied in a discriminatory fashion, then I assume that the United States and the people of Arizona will correct that injustice if any does occur. Instead, he came here and lectured us and tried to tell us that our law was poorly written when he can't even secure his nation. It's out of control, and the violence in that country is spilling over into our border. The president misrepresented the law. He said, for example, that it could be applied in a discriminatory fashion. The president needs to understand every law can be applied in a discriminatory fashion. And this bill, well, I'm not necessarily defending the law. This bill specifically says that you cannot take into consideration race, color, or national origin. In point of fact, there's a lot of frustration because of the violence that is occurring.
You know, you almost feel that there's a disconnect with maybe a lot of us in this country who don't really know what it's like, can't walk in the shoes of people who live in Arizona. And I want to play a soundbite from President Obama that really got your colleague Senator McCain a bit upset, and get your reaction to this one, and then I want to talk about what's going to happen today.
You bet.
But now suddenly, if you don't have your papers and you took your kid out to get ice cream, you're going to be harassed. That's something that could potentially happen.
Are the police in Arizona going to harass people who go out for ice cream, sir?
Actually, what I think about the president's remarks both then and yesterday are that they criticize unfairly every police officer in America. The truth is, in the enforcement of every law we have, we rely on the good judgment of police officers. If they abuse that judgment, if they're bad police officers, we go after them. But the words of the law can be abused by a police officer or applied properly. And for the president to make that statement slams every law enforcement officer in America, and I think is outrageous. And I think the police officers in this country ought to speak up. The police officers in Arizona have said, we will not enforce this in a discriminatory fashion.
Yeah, it puts them in a terrible light. I only have about a half a minute left, but I wanted you to tell me what you expect from President Calderon in Congress today and what you would like him to know. What would you say to him?
Well, what I'd say to him is that he needs to understand that it is not discriminatory for us to act against people who enter our country illegally. He does not tolerate people illegally entering his country. You look at the enforcement of immigration from south of Mexico, and they're very tough about it. So I think he needs to be asking America for its support, not condemning us or talking down to us or ordering us around or saying that if there's something wrong with saying that we cannot discriminate against. That is, we cannot deal with the problem of illegals who enter our country illegally. We're entitled to have those laws and enforce them.
Well, it's an unusual situation to have the president of another country and our president sort of taking issue with a specific law in one of our own states. And we're going to get more on all of this today. Congressman Shadegg, thank you so much for being with us today. Good to talk to you, sir.
You bet.
In a moment here, what does the federal government want with a dairy farm? And what